Thanks, Cade. Back for the next edition of Business and Politics Inside. And we are here with Chris Lowry, candidate for Jefferson County Sheriff. Chris is running in 2026 and been working with you on your campaign a little bit. It's been super exciting. Had a good time doing it. And glad you could come on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk about what I'm standing for and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, let's dive right into it then. What in the world would make you think that you would want to be the sheriff of Jefferson County?
So, to be honest with you, it's just being from that area and seeing things that's going on. I'm somebody who's been in law enforcement for 22 years and seen a lot of stuff go on within the community, criminally, and just not happy with what's going on. And as I look around and realize that there's no one else challenging for the position, and I'm somebody who I believe in, if you're not happy with something, try to affect some change, right? And no one else is trying to do that. So as I looked, I said, if not me, then who, right? So I just kind of stepped in and give it my best shot and see where we go.
Right. And they need some change affected down there.
100% they do, right? So
right.
I was born in Jefferson County, raised there. I left for some years through me being in the military and what have you. Life just kind of traveled around the world. But I consciously and purposely, intentionally moved back to Jefferson County in 2010. Since then, I've been heavily involved with the community. I have a small business down there. That's my home. I'm 52 years old. I'm not planning on going anywhere else, right? That's where I'll probably die at. So just seeing what I'm seeing go on down there, it's time for change, and I'm throwing my hat in the ring and see what happens.
It's a tough area to be sheriff, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Crime bluff.
Yes, sir. That you say that, that's one of the things that I spoke to one of our local mayors about. Just be frank, it should piss you off when you hear somebody say crime bluff, right? So I'm from there. The town is Pine Bluff, and I'm not offended that you said that, but that's what people say, throughout
it's
Arkansas.
Not me.
Right?
I heard it a lot of places.
It's not you doing it, right? Just the other day, I was in a room full of some significant politicians, right? And one of them referred to it as that. And not because that's what they were calling it, that's just what they hear, right? And that's one of the things that really got me to looking at it, right? I'm not running for sheriff of Pine Bluff. They're their own municipality, right? I'm running for sheriff of Jefferson County, the top law enforcement official for a county, the state's 8th largest county, right? But it's known for having high crime. It's known for having problems, right? Yeah. And it just aggravates me because when I'm there, and that's where I've chose to make my home, where I make my business, and people look at you funny when you live there, and they're like, why would you live there? Well, it's time to change that. So.
Right. Man, that's the worst part about it. Like you say, I agree with you. You should, I say that all the time whenever you're looking at a sheriff or someone, a mayor of a city that, I don't know, by my standards at least, are failing. I say, like, I don't know how that person sleeps at night. They're responsible for taking care of that. But then there's this other group of people that are the people that are causing those issues, and they take pride. There are people that take pride in being the ones who, are cause the most ruckus or are known to be, the toughest or the wildest or whatever, man. That's a hard crowd to police, right. I would think.
Right. It is, in the 22 years I've been in law enforcement, I've had the opportunity to work at different agencies and different roles within those agencies. I tell everybody, as far as the city of Pine Bluff goes, which is the county seat of Jefferson County, about 40,000 folks that live there, that's roughly what the population is. Man, if you want a police, Pine Bluff is where it's at, because they are all about crime, right? You're going to see it. It's part of it. And we just got to change that, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about some change and different people being involved. The city of Pine Bluff recently, as of January this year, got a new mayor. I think she's doing some great, phenomenal things and trying to move the city within itself in the right direction. However, that's sitting in the middle of a county that is currently having some issues amongst elected officials, right? So that's what I talk about, bringing change. Pine Bluff has brought some change by getting a different mayor involved, right? And as I've announced about 4 weeks ago that I want to run for sheriff, that's all I'm hearing the citizens talk about is change, right? So I think with new leadership is going to help take it in a direction that we've not seen in years with Jefferson County as a whole.
Yeah. Diving into working with you on this election, that's one of the things that has surprised me so much, with what's going on there within the county. Just looking at, just on the surface, obviously I haven't been involved in lots of quorum court meetings or anything like that, but just looking into, a few months ago, and I'm saying this for listeners who may not be aware, you'd be fascinated if you looked into it and read about it, because you would think these things couldn't be happening in, what, it's probably the third or fourth largest county in Arkansas.
Yeah, it's actually the eighth on population wise. It used to be larger, but I think that's part of the problem, right? Is whether it's corrupt politicians or crime rates, or it all becomes part of the issue, right? People are fleeing Jefferson County in rampant numbers, over the past 20, 30 years, right? And so that's one of the things I talk about, is stopping what I'm calling the bleed, right? Let's quit having an area that people are leaving. Let's try to stop it and then turn it into a destination county again, right? So, and I think that starts with crime, right? That's what I'm looking at the most.
Yeah, I've always heard that your people are a reflection of your leadership, and your leadership is a reflection of your citizens or of your people, whether that's a government office or even a private business. I've always heard that kind of thing. And so, yeah, maybe that's exactly what they need. If they get a change, then maybe that sparks some,
Well, to your point, with you saying that, I believe that wholeheartedly, right? Some of the things that I've experienced in the past, 12 months to 24 months is just dealing with citizens that say things like, from a crime perspective, when you ask questions, they say this is normal, or this is just Pine Bluff, it's acceptable, it's Jefferson County, what have you. And so I believe if leaderships have allowed that to happen, communities start to believe that that's okay, it's acceptable.
Yeah, I've heard you tell the story about the little old lady at 16th and Cherry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a fictional character that I talk about. She lives at 16th and Cherry in Pine Bluff, right? And so she's had that house for 20, 30 years. She can't afford to move, don't want to move, or what have you. But she doesn't feel comfortable going out in her yard and, de-weeding her flower bed, or what have you, because the crime rate's so high. And once the hours of daylight go away, it's dark. She's confined to her house, right? And so that's not freedom, right? If she's not comfortable to go to and from businesses, get something to eat, go out in her yard, what have you, where are we living at? What is that all about? We have a Walmart down there. Most every place has a Walmart, but I know a large number of citizens don't go to that Walmart. They drive 30, 40 miles away to the Sheridan Walmart.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's because of a crime rate. That's because of a culture that has been bred or led to believe that it's okay or acceptable. And I say that because we can talk about it's not acceptable, right? But saying it and acting on it are two totally different things.
Yeah,
right?
Because clearly it is, right?
100%.
You could say it's not acceptable, but nothing's changing. That's how it is.
Well, when you're not encouraged to proactively combat crime or proactively suppress crime, right? And it's just answer what calls come in, or maybe a lot of people don't understand this. Let me break it down like this. So you have 75 counties in the state of Arkansas, right? So there's 75 sheriffs, and I'm not going to speak for any of them that are currently in office because I haven't had these conversations with them. However, I do know people that work at Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I have had the privilege of working at the state's largest county, and I know when I worked there, I was told the same thing that these deputies are telling me at work at Jefferson County, and that is the city has their own police force, their own infrastructure. Let them deal with what they deal with, and you deal with stuff in the unincorporated areas. I don't know, or I'm going to tell you, it's not that I don't know. I believe that is not the right approach, right? The citizens of Pine Bluff, right, or the citizens of Little Rock for Pulaski County, they vote. They need a sheriff just like they need a police department, right? So to have a deputy work for any agency and be told, these are phrases that I've heard, that's their pond, don't go fishing in their pond. right? That don't make no sense to me because as I talked to you about my fictional character that lives at 16th and Cherry, that's right, smack dab in the middle of Pine Bluff. Why would we not provide her a service that she might need? The example I'd give you, if you're riding down the road as a deputy and you see a minor infraction that might lead to something bigger, you're led to believe by your leadership that don't worry about that. You need to be worried about what's in the unincorporated areas. And, it's been my experience that small infractions prevent bigger crimes, right? So if you're telling anybody to not proactively do something within a certain area, you're just defeating, what I'm trying to do, which is lower crime rate, right?
Yeah. So that would require leadership to work together. And that's not something that's happening down there. It doesn't. I mean, look, again, for the listeners, look into it. You'll find it fascinating. But for those of you that don't know, the county judge is suing the sheriff, or maybe has. That lawsuit may be over. I don't know. But the quorum court suing the county judge and vice versa. There's a ton of turmoil in county government that kind of reflects in the what's getting done and not getting done in Jefferson County, what they're failing at.
So anytime you have whether it's in private business or public, right? But you have leaders in roles that refuse to get along for the better good, right? You're going to have a problem. And I think in elected positions, it's worse because at some point, citizens took time out of their day to go cast a vote for who they thought would serve them best. Right now in Jefferson County, for the past 12 to 24 months, they have been in turmoil to the point that employees weren't getting paid, for up to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's wild.
We had other counties coming to Jefferson County, providing what I will call food banks or ways for employees to get food because they weren't getting paid. County employees
that are getting their food from a food bank because they're not getting paychecks.
100%.
I don't want to get into what's happening on the national level, but it's. Right. I mean, we just did it in Jefferson County. How long ago? 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yes.
And the governor stepped in.
Yes.
And mandated that they cut checks.
Yeah.
To
so
employees.
as I understand it, right. So I was kind of watching it from afar as a citizen, right. I actually had my son worked at the county government for the sheriff's office at that time. He's no longer there. But during that time, they weren't getting a paycheck.
He worked there and wasn't. That's just wild to say that. So he worked there. I mean, during that time, they weren't getting a paycheck.
So I want you to think about it. So you have we call it Mecca, but it's the dispatch center or the 911 operations control center for Jefferson County, right? Those are county employees that handle all your 911 calls and all your emergencies for first response, fire, police, what have you, right? So that room is full of people answering the calls that our citizens are calling in saying, I need help, right? They've raised the flag and they're saying, I need
emergency
help. Send people, right? So those operators were working without a paycheck. Those deputies in the jail and the juvenile justice center and transport and out on the streets were working, right? They're out there answering the call for service. Think about it like this. They were going to work with the possibility of them being shot or killed for not even earning $1.
That's terrible.
Right? While grown people sat in rooms and argued like juveniles, in my opinion, about who was right and who was wrong with neither party giving, right? Giving in. I'm not blaming one specific person. I'm saying this is a process that is set up to have an efficient government operation that we're failing. Right?
Yeah. So, it's a problem you have to fix. Right. It doesn't matter whose fault it is.
So that's another part of the puzzle that I'm willing to bring to the table. I mean, first and foremost, I want to be tough on crime, right? So when we talked about a while ago, people referring it to Crime Bluff or Jefferson County just is in crisis with the type of crime that they're having. Shootings, stabbings, homicides through the roof, elevated rates over the past few years. So I want to do that because as a top law enforcement official, it doesn't matter if it's Pine Bluff, Wabaseka, Alzheimer, it does not matter where it happens. Nobody can tell me as the sheriff, you can't come help us suppress crime, right? Because I don't work for Pine Bluff, right? I don't work for the city of Alzheimer. It's in the county, right? I like to use a little phrase, if you don't want me there doing it, I can't help it that your football field is in the middle of my stadium, right? Because the entire county would be my stadium. And not that I'm trying to be a czar or a king or whatever, but the entire county deserves support from the sheriff's office, right? So I want to be tough on crime, but then being an elected official, I will work with the other elected officials to not have these problems that we're currently having by not being able to pass budgets where it causes my workers as well as other workers and employees to not receive paychecks. That's insane to me, right? Most people probably don't even know this, but municipal employees versus county employees, normally it's pretty drastic change in the amount of money. County employees make less money, right? Overwhelmingly, there might be one or two positions that they get paid more, but now we're asking them to come to work for no paycheck. That didn't make no sense. Now, how does that affect citizens of Jefferson County? I know it would be tough for me to get up and go into work, risk my life for not a paycheck to put food on the table for my children or wife, right? So how does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I believe in what I do, and I've worked in places where I was extremely passionate and I was working for a cause. But I'm not, I can't do it without a paycheck. I mean, at the end, it's not even whether I want to or not. I mean, I have to pay the bills. I have to put food in my kid's mouth, and to think that internal squabbles are getting in the way of police officers, sheriff's deputies, you know.
Now, I will say, I was very impressed during that time. To my knowledge, I was not aware of what we call an enforcement deputy, right? So a deputy that worked for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in a true certified law enforcement capacity, like they've been to the academy, they have arrest powers, all the stuff that, you know, us three know what we're talking about, but for the citizens, just because they have a title of deputy does not necessarily mean that they're a true law enforcement certified individual through CLEST, which is our standard for the state of Arkansas. But I was not made aware of anybody that actually walked away. But what does that tell me? They didn't walk away while they weren't getting paid. And I was impressed. I really was, right? So that means that most of those people probably truly had servants' hearts, right? That wanted to serve the citizens and weren't willing to not provide them a service, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, we went 6 weeks. They didn't get a paycheck for 6 weeks, right? So what would have happened if we went 7, 8? What would have happened if?
How far can this go?
Well, I do know that there was 911 dispatchers that did walk away.
You know, people hire on with the government and they think they're doing that because it's a secure job. They do it. I mean, I could go out here and I could work in sales or something like that, but you never know if the company's going to go under, if it's mismanaged or, you know, but whatever, things like that. But when you go to work for the government, you think this is a secure, guaranteed, I'm going to get my check every 2 weeks. It's going to happen. And, you know, I'm going to have benefits and all the things that secure jobs have. And then to think that, yeah, it would go there. That's wild. Yeah. And yeah, respect that those guys, I mean, they've got something, they're doing something right. If they have, and that maybe that's just a police thing. Those guys are dedicated, you know, to what they're doing. If they're going to get up and come in and continue to work without a paycheck and not quit for 6 weeks.
Well, and I think it speaks more to that, right? I think being a police officer, much like a military person, it's a calling. It's something you feel in your heart that you're just felt to serve, right? So, you know, I like to say, for me personally, I can't speak for everybody else. Money's nice, right? But that ranks about 3 or 4 in the things that are important to me, right? So, would I get up and go do it without a paycheck? Probably, right? How long could I do that? Well, you know, you got to feed the kids, you got to feed the wife, you got things you have to do. So, I just want to give kudos to the ones that were out there working that didn't make those decisions.
What's
right?
1, 2, and 3? Yeah, you said it ranks 4th. What's number 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I would say, you know, job satisfaction for one, right? Like who I work for, right? That's very important to me. If you work for a jerk or if you work for somebody who just has never been in your shoes, right? That's not a fun place to be. I've been there before. Years ago, I worked for the state's largest agency, and I'll never forget the second chief that I worked for under that agency. He showed up one time and put off a vibe that was really didn't care less, right? This is who I am. I'm the chief. I just want to introduce myself to you, yada, yada, yada. Not professional looking, not professional acting, and made me feel like I didn't matter, right? And so immediately that sends a
Turns you
vibe
off,
that's
right?
like,
Yeah.
why am I here, right? And to that point, ultimately, I ended up leaving that agency for vice versa, right? I went over to the sheriff's office of Pulaski County. I can say that because I don't work there anymore. And worked for a man that I still consider, I'll put his name out there, Doc Holliday. He was a sheriff at Jefferson County at the time that I went. And you asked me what's, the other numbers, that money's 3 or 4. Well, I'll tell you that when I left Little Rock Police Department, I took a $30,000 pay cut to go to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
I got a little phrase I say.
That's not small pay cut.
It's not, and I say not all money's good money, right? That's something
Right.
I like to say to people. So then, obviously, beyond that, I would say that time with my family is important. The happiness of them with the job that I work, because if you're doing a job that you're miserable, then you go home, you're going to be miserable, right? But we spend a majority of our time. We probably spend more time at our work than we actually do with our family. If you think about the number of hours you actually put in, from getting ready to go to work as a law enforcement officer, to the time you do there, to the overtime you have to put in for the late calls that you catch, the time you spend at court, what have you, and you come home, and then between sleep, you're not spending a lot of time with your family. So when you walk in the door, if you're miserable because of where you worked at,
Yeah.
So those are high priorities for me.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, well, good. That now that you say it, that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Right.
But I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, I like to work for money, but I do like to have a purpose. And yeah, I get it, man. So let's bring up something else here. The jail. What's going on with the jail?
So, from my perspective, I've been a law enforcement officer. I won't talk about the agencies I work for, but I've been a law enforcement officer dealing with the jail. It's called Dub Braswell Detention Center. That's where the jail is. That's the title of the jail for Jefferson County. I've been dealing with it personally in a law enforcement capacity for over 3 years. And the jail is, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it ultimately closed. Now, when I say that, I don't want the viewers to think, oh, they don't have anybody in jail. We do. I've been told that it's, when I say closed, I'm talking about they don't just take anybody and everybody, right? A lot of people citizens think you commit a crime, police catch you doing that crime, they take you and put you in jail. That's not the case in Jefferson County. It's almost like you have to get approval to put somebody in jail. I've been told that that's because, they're understaffed, they're overmanned as far as.
What's the criteria for approval?
So you would basically, it ranges from going to the jail and asking them like, hey, I got this person that I've arrested for these charges, and they may or may not take them.
So there's not a criteria. It's like discretionary.
I would chalk it up to my experience has been discretionary. Absolutely. Depending upon
who you get,
what detention supervisor is on duty at the time. Okay. I've experienced that. Up until past 14 days, right? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It's been 14 days, but I don't think it's been that long. But up until that point, I would tell you that 90% of arrestable offenses that I have personally dealt with or that I'm aware of, the jail was not taking. And when I would talk about arrestable offenses, and I don't, we're talking to the citizens out there that listen to this. So in Arkansas, you have a multitude of crimes, but they're listed in 2 major categories. There is a misdemeanor crime. Those are A, B, and C, C being the lowest. There's also an unclassified, but then you have felonies, right, which are A, B, C, D, and Y, right? I don't want to get too much into the weeds of that.
Basically, they're taking felonies, but they're not taking misdemeanors.
Well, they're taking selective felonies. I have personally been involved where I'm going to tell the story, right? Is that okay if I tell you the story? Right.
Tell me.
So, fairly recently, I was working for my agency and conducted a traffic stop that was, in policing, we don't say there's a routine traffic stop. Nothing's routine. But for the citizens that's listening to this, it was a regular routine traffic stop.
You had no reason to believe anything was.
Nothing suspicious, nothing that just made me, think, this is fixing to go awry. I distinctly remember it was because she had a tag violation, a registration violation on her car.
Simple, basic stuff.
Basic stuff, right? It's more or less just me stopping her. It's going to be a warning, verbal, make sure she's good on everything else. Rock on about your business. Well, while I'm dealing with this particular traffic stop, I just, being an officer, head on a swivel, making sure I'm aware of my surroundings. I look to my right, and there's an individual being pushed in a wheelchair down the street that has an M4 rifle in his lap. Those of you who don't know what an M4 rifle is, just think a military style rifle. What you see on TV and in the movies, that's essentially an M4, right? So he has that on his lap. And when I tell this story,
Dude's just riding down the street in a wheelchair with a
being pushed by his girlfriend or his wife. I'm not sure what she was.
With a military weapon
with
in
a
his
military
lap.
style rifle in his lap. And I say, you know, almost like he was in Mogadishu or something.
Crown Bluff is where he was.
Iran or Iraq,
Sorry.
you know. Yeah, I get it. And I thought, what do we have going on there? So I stopped what I was doing with the traffic stop, went and addressed that situation, right? And lawfully detained him to investigate what do we got going on. That's not normal, right? And policing, we talk about abnormal behaviors is what we call probable or reasonable suspicion that can lead us to probable cause, right? So I have reasonable suspicion that something's not right here, right?
I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I think the average citizen would agree with me. So I go deal with the guy, and as I'm checking him out and take the rifle from him to investigate, one, is it a legal rifle? Two, is he legally able to own it, right? Those are the two things that I'm dealing with him. The rifle was legal, right? It was not an automatic rifle. It was not one that you can't lawfully own, right? You can go to any sporting store that sells guns and buy this particular rifle. However, when I checked him out, he was a felon that had been to prison twice.
Okay.
Which in Arkansas makes it illegal for him to own a weapon, own a firearm, right? So it's called possession by certain persons. Well, so on that particular case, we called the jail to say, hey, we have this guy who has this rifle. Here's his charges: possession by certain persons. That's the only charge got on it, but it is a felony in the state of Arkansas. And they asked some questions. I would call them qualifying questions. And one of those, we had to, we disclosed he was in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And we were told we can't take anybody in a wheelchair, so we will not accept him. We actually, with this guy, called a couple of other jails that my current department will work with to house him in jail because of the crime. They were full, had a reason why they couldn't take him at these other jails in other counties or whatever. So basically, what ended up having to happen is we just do what's called a case file on this guy. He left going down the road, not with his weapon. I kept his weapon, stored it as evidence for when the charge officially does come down to him. And he does have to face a judge or juror on this particular charge. But that's going to be...
So you gave him a ticket?
A ticket, essentially.
He got a ticket for riding down the road?
Yep.
I mean, and you have no idea if he was going... for a felony, possessing a weapon, that's how crime happens, man. I mean, whether somebody comes up and whacks him on the head and takes it from him and goes and commits one, or who knows where he was going or what he was going to do with it.
Right.
I mean, even if he was going to sell it, was it to the right guy? Was he selling it to,
Right.
I don't know. Do good guys buy weapons like that?
Well, I would say it's been my experience. They don't, right?
Right.
So,
that's what I'm,
I often think about that particular situation as I've been mulling it over in my head, and part of the reasons why I'm running for sheriff, thinking, all right, so he couldn't legally buy that gun the first time, right? So that means he got it through illegal gains.
Right.
It was illegally got. Either he had someone go to the store and buy it for him, or he just bought it out of somebody's house. He obtained it not lawfully, right?
Right.
So when I asked him, why do you have this? He said he had it for protection, which was weird to me, being a 32-year veteran of the military, carrying military-style rifles. Personal protection weapons are typically not M4 rifles. That's typically not what they are. But that was his reasoning for having it. So I thought, here I had to let this guy just be pushed down the street.
I mean, if you need a gun like that for protection, it has to be because somebody's trying to hurt you. And I don't think that most law-abiding citizens ride around with a target on their back like people are trying to hurt them either.
Agreed. So I thought about that. So I took the rifle from him, gave him his ticket, and he went on about his business. And I thought, if I was a criminal, and my experience dealing with criminals, if he knew how to get one illegally the first time, he might have just went down the street and bought another one.
What would make the dude think he could roll past a police officer with that gun on his lap, being a felon, I mean, that's just wild to me. And open carry, I don't even want to get into all that stuff, but this is a dude who twice has been through a system where, I mean, when you're a felon that you can't own a gun.
Right.
Period.
Yes. I would say it's because of a culture from the top down has allowed acceptable of unacceptable behavior.
That's lawlessness, man.
It is.
That is straight lawlessness.
You think about it. So when someone gets released from prison, they're given a certain set of instructions, whether they're flatten their time out, which means they served every day they should have served in a correctional facility, or they're put on parole. Right? They're given a list of rules, right? You can't do this, you must do this, what have you.
Yeah.
And for him to purposely and intentionally go out and get a rifle, he just threw all the rules and laws to the side and said, they don't apply to me. Now, he either did that because he's a bad hombre, right? Or he did that because, as you called it, crime bluff is so bad he felt the need to disregard laws to protect himself, right? Either way, we're failing as a society, right?
Yeah, right.
Not holding him accountable or not providing him enough protection that he doesn't feel he needs to have that, right? So
but he could be putting himself in a position where he needs a little extra protection from what everybody else has.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So, one more example I'll give you that just recently happened to me. So I like to talk about a broken window theory, right? And for everybody listening out there, a broken window theory is simply this. If you have an abandoned house and you break a window out of it and you do not repair that window, people begin to think it's okay and acceptable to break more and more windows. And eventually you have a dilapidated house that's just an eyesore that nobody cares about. If you don't take care of the small stuff, it becomes bigger stuff. That's the broken window theory in a nutshell. So within the past week, I arrested a business called for service to their business that they had someone on their property harassing customers and causing a scene. The business had asked the individual to leave, and he refused to leave.
So you have a business that's being put out, and you have patrons of the business who are being harassed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm tracking.
This is a small restaurant, right? Like a walk up, like a Dairy Queen type, no sit down, window service, only restaurant. So they call for service. Well, I'm the officer that gets the call to go provide a service for the citizens and the business owner to get this guy off the property, right? So as I'm dealing with the guy, he is refusing to leave. The business owner wants him banned from the property, which is a process that we do, that we document. Hey, you're told officially you can't be on this property, and business owner has the right to do that. It's his property.
Yeah, stop it from happening.
Yes.
Again. Sure.
So this particular individual, at the moment that I started interacting with him, he took off running from me, which is illegal, right? That would be considered, you could either consider it fleeing or you consider it loitering. Those are a couple of Arkansas statutes that talk about people can't run away from the police, right? So I pursued him as a proactive police officer, right? And got him into custody. When I arrested him, now he's legally and lawfully under arrest, conducted a search of the person and found a small amount of drugs on him, right?
Okay.
So here are charges that I have on him now. So loitering, fleeing, disorderly conduct, and possession of controlled substances, right? So those are 4 charges that all are misdemeanor charges, right? Yeah. So
at the very least, you need to get this dude sat in a jail long enough to sober up and make better decisions.
Absolutely, right? So that was my process. So had him arrested and took him to the Dub-Braswell Detention Center. And upon arrival there, I go in and talk to the on-duty detention deputy, and they refused to take him. They said, we're not taking misdemeanor charges. None of those are violent. We're not taking him. So my only recourse was to go back out of the jail and issue him a ticket. Like you said earlier, we talked about the guy with the gun. This guy got the same thing. He got a ticket, 4 charges: loitering, fleeing, disorderly conduct, and possession of controlled substance that are all misdemeanor, right? So give him a ticket and a court date.
And he can walk out of there and do it to the next business up on the corner.
That's why I bring this story up. So the same shift, this was about, I don't know, I'm going to say 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when this particular.
That's where this is going. He did it.
Yes. So.
Oh, my God.
So about 4 or 5 hours later, roughly, same guy is in the same vicinity as where I arrested him at, but at a different business this time.
Jeez, of course he is.
He's again causing a disturbance. again harassing customers, again having a problem that they call the police, to the point that he actually stole money from this business. And when I arrived on scene, the guy was in the parking lot of this business. I tried to make contact with him. He took off running again, so fleeing again.
Well, he didn't learn a lesson. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
So again, me being the proactive law enforcement officer I am, I was able to catch him, arrest him, and take him to the jail this time with a felony charge, right? And they did hold him on the felony
because
charge.
he stole the money.
Because he stole the money. And that's what I talk about with the broken window theory. If you don't,
you got to do something.
If you don't have a repercussion for the small stuff, it becomes bigger stuff.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that this guy, when I arrested him the first time, he's like, "Oh, it ain't nothing but a misdemeanor. I'll be right out. And so in my mind, that says, I don't care about the law. You can do whatever you're going to do. You're going to inconvenience me for 30 minutes or an hour, but I'm going to come back out here and do it again.
And that's what leads to lawlessness.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely. Which leads to people leaving Jefferson County, the bleed that I talk about, which talks about people referring to it as Crime Bluff versus Pine Bluff, right?
Yeah.
So,
and having talked to you, I know that we can get into the deep roots of crime, that we realize that, first of all, there's just some bad people that you just got to stop. Right.
Yes.
But then there's outside of that, there's some good people that do things because of circumstances. Education. If I could do something better because I got a better education, then maybe I would. But because I don't have that, and in order to do that, you have to have some kind of economic opportunity in the county. But when you're squashing education, and again, if you look into Pine Bluff, there's some education issues going on down there.
Right.
Have been, in the whole state of Arkansas, we're like ranked 44th, and but Pine Bluff being right there at the bottom of it, of even within Arkansas. And then outside of that, when you're running off your economic opportunities,
exactly. I've talked
you're creating bad guys when you're doing that, man.
I've talked to, local officials, whether elected or just, of stature, that own businesses in town or in the decision-making process. And, they have told me that there are businesses that look at coming to Jefferson County, but one of the reasons why they don't is the crime rate, right? Is specifically that. So with my experience, and as I looked at this as my home, being where I'm from and where I'm going to die at, right? I started looking and go, well, how can I help economic impact? You mentioned education. What can I do? Well, my expertise is within law enforcement, right? So I kind of have this thing that I created. I'll just call it the life broke out into a pie chart, right? So 50% of that pie essentially belongs to home training, your home upbringing. And I'm going to refer to that as also your neighbor to your left, your neighbor to your right, your neighbor across the street. When I was a child, probably you when you were a child, your neighbor almost had as much authority over you as your parents did. Absolutely. Right? So we lack that down there, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the upper half of that, I'm going to break that up into two quadrants of 25% each, right? Part of that is 125% of that is going to be local government, police, education, right? The other 25% of that is going to be state, federal, and type of grants and that type of government, right? Big government.
Right.
So in that 25% that I fall, which is law enforcement, right? I believe that by being tough on crime will have a direct impact on the home bringing. Because if the juvenile is committing crimes that consistently the parents are being forced to get involved and instill some discipline and hold their child, their juvenile, accountable, right, for their actions. If nothing else, they're going to say, I'm tired of Sheriff Lowry coming over here and having to deal with me because you keep breaking the law, you keep doing this. And that requires our judges and our judicial system to be more involved, which if a parent gets more involved, that means that the kid's going to now go to school, try to do better because they're sick of hearing mom and dad get onto them. They're sick of Sheriff Lowry and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office having to arrest them and get onto them. So a little bit of that helps those other pies out, those other part of the life pie that I talk about, right? So I firmly believe that. So when I looked at it as a whole, that's where I can apply my skills better to serve Jefferson County.
Yeah, at the end of the day, as important as crime and the sheriff is, It is a cog in the wheel of a lot bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And there's a certain part of it that you're laying and a certain part of it where you can help this guy by doing your job, but you can't do everybody's job. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to go on record to say that I'm not talking about just being tough on crime, about put them in jail, lock them away, and forget about them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about partnering with organizations and people within Jefferson County that can help me help the citizens develop programs. I do believe in arresting folks and holding them accountable for committing crimes and law violations, right? There's no doubt about that. I'll never change my stance on that. However, now if I get them to the jail, I'm going to call it the easy button, right? So I got a button that I can push that says, hey, Chris, hey, Matt, I have this person that I just arrested. They come from, low economic status. We've had a history with them, what have you. I think they'd be a great candidate to come in to your program, for you to come in and mentor to, or give them an outside the box education, a trade, work with them, mentorship, whatever that turns out to be, to help show these people that have become accustomed to crime, either committing it or accepting it, it's done to them, help show them that there's a different way. While
you're talking about like community leaders or business owners.
Absolutely. Small businesses to large businesses to corporations, everybody can get involved somehow. This doesn't solely rely on law enforcement, right? It's an entire community that's going to have to come together with direct leadership to develop programs and situations where people can come out of the negativity.
Man, I think people want to come together.
Yes.
I really do. I just think that it takes the right leadership to make that happen. And when your leadership's not communicating internally, not communicating well with your public, how can you? I mean, you can't do it. They're not making it happen.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, think about it. We all know there's only 24 hours in a day, right? So if you're spending your time fighting amongst other officials and dealing with things that should have been dealt with 6, 8, 10 months, 12 months ago, right? Such as a budget. How much energy are you able to actually spend on these other things to help us quit being
the actual things to impact
the core issues that we're having, economic impact, crime impact. We can't deal with that because we're fighting amongst ourselves. We can't even pass a budget, right?
Yeah.
Because of entities that can't get along and come to an agreement for the greater good of Jefferson County. Let's move forward. Let's get past this, because it's not about you. It's not about the position that you hold. It's about the people that put you in office.
Well, I think that's where people get. I mean, you get elected into a position, I think, and I think people do it a lot of the time with really, really good intentions. And somewhere along the way, they get distracted. And I mean, not just by the things that are going on around them, but just by themselves too. I mean, it's easy to get wrapped up in your pride. It's easy to get wrapped up in your ego and what you're saying, I think that's important. Like, not about you at all.
Exactly. So being a law enforcement veteran and a military veteran, one of the things that I've noticed over, 30 plus years of working in military or military style paramilitary organizations is sometimes you run across people that forget where they come from.
Yeah.
And that is nothing more disheartening to have somebody, a supervisor, a leader, a boss, that forgets where they come from, right? We all started from the same place, right? We all came from our mother and our father. We all have opportunities. And then sometimes when they seize those opportunities, they forget about the people below them or what their main purpose was.
Who they're leaving back.
Why. You forgot your why. No longer is it about serving the community. It's, well, he said this or she said that, or my buddy does this. And that's not what it's about. Right? There's only 75 counties in this state. Why are we the laughing stock? Right? And I say laughing stock, it's not funny, but Northwest Arkansas hears about Jefferson County and the problems we got.
Everybody does.
Yes. I mean, that's crazy to me, right?
Yeah. For
it to be referred to as crime bluff and the crime that's going on, and you are in dismay and disruption down there. You can't even get a budget passed. People are going without getting paychecks. People don't feel safe going to the stores. What are y'all doing down there, right? And then you drive around and you see dilapidated houses and abandoned properties, and it's just mind blowing that we could have ever been, a community. Not, I mean, we're talking about Jefferson County, but Pine Bluff in itself, right, was 60, 70,000 people at one time, and now we're 38 to 42,000 folks, right? That's drastic.
Something that you told me that I looked into that I found fascinating. I think listeners and viewers will find it fascinating that Pine Bluff at one time was actually had more black millionaires than anywhere else in the United States of America. And I looked into that, like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And because it's a poor little town to me, no offense to you or people that are from there, but
yes, sir.
I mean, economic opportunity is the reason that they have a lot of the problems that y'all have down there, you know, and to think that was actually the most booming minority community in the entire United States is amazing. Where we've gone and where we've been and where we've come to.
You just said something there, Chris, that you said no offense, right? And I'm somebody who's
Sorry.
like, no, there's none taken because I'm a member of that community, right?
Sure.
So I am some way, shape, form, or fashion responsible for some of the things that happen. We all are. We live in a community, right?
Right.
I'm a firm believer you reap what you sow. If you allow things to happen, if people put a title of Crime Bluff or Jefferson County is a horrible county, well, you kind of got that. You earned that.
They didn't make it up.
You earned it, right? Nobody just makes this stuff up, right? So you talk about, I mentioned a while ago, Northwest Arkansas, right? That's a boom. That's booming up there, right?
Sure.
Because they've earned it. They've kept clean streets, kept crime down, right? And encouraged businesses to come there, right? Because this is a community that we want you. It helps us thrive. It helps us grow. And we've allowed for crime and poverty to run rampant within Jefferson County. And so we kind of earned that. And I think it's time. Well, I know it's time from my perspective, but I will tell you that I announced my candidacy about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Since then, the response I'm getting from citizens is simply this. We need change. We are demanding change. We're tired of electing people, putting them in office, and them not doing what they said they would do and helping the community become stronger and better. Every day I hear those words come out of somebody's mouth. It does not matter if they're black, white, man, or woman. That is what I'm hearing.
That's what I was about to say. I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised to hear something like that from the rich white farmer over here. But it's not just them that we're hearing from.
I mentioned a while ago that I own a small business. For the listeners out there, the name of the business is Diamond State Canine. It's at 6523 Dalloway Road. I'm not putting that out there for a plug, but I'm putting that out there. One, that's where I'm at most of the time. If I'm not there, I'm working for a police agency. But you can come by and talk to me at any time. But I deal with, I would say, estimated 30 customers a day, right? Dealing with their dogs. And of those customers, I am constantly talking to them about what I'm doing to run for sheriff and trying to understand what their perspectives are, what they see the issues are. And I got them from, 80 years old to 18 years old, ones that live in Whitehall, ones that live in Wabaseka, ones that live in Pine Bluff, right? So it's all different races, sexes, and different parts of the county they live in, from the rural to the inner city. The message has been the same from all of them. We need change. We're tired of the same thing going on. It's embarrassing. It's not what it once was. We need you. You got my vote. I'm behind you, right? Yeah. So that's what motivates me. It's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing for you to tell it to me and it aligns with what I believe. And I'm like,
and what you're
just to put it blunt, hell yes, right?
Right.
If not me, then who? Right. So,
man, that's great. I hope you can make that happen. And so I asked, and I'm glad we had this conversation, but when I asked about the jail, we had talked about how these officers were dedicated, and then we talked, and I asked about the jail, and you talked about how it was closed, and I guess that's a big part of what the problem is. But actually, what I was talking about, I mean, I've done a little bit of research, on Jefferson County in assisting you with your campaign, and when I look online, I keep finding these videos of these guys that are in jail, and it's like they're just running their own criminal community in there, like the inmates are in charge of the asylum kind of situation is what it looks like when you're looking online. Guys are just beating each other to death in there, or a bunch of them are ganging up on one guy, here and there. I mean, it really looks like it's just, I mean, I get it. It's jail, but I mean, you expect bad people to be there that do bad things.
Right,
I fully expect it, but I feel like something's going on that's out of hand.
Well,
just looking at it from social media. And why is it on social media? What in the world? Why are they videoing stomping a guy out and putting it on social? How can they do that?
So you bring that up, and I'd like to mention a couple of things about that, if I may. So although somebody commits a crime and they go to jail, they're still humans. They still have the Eighth Amendment that protects them against, unusual pain and suffering. And we are lawfully obligated to protect those people in jail, right? Just because they committed a crime does not mean that we just get to treat them however we want to. And I'm not suggesting that the sheriff's office is, but they are duty obligated to protect those people, right? And I've seen those same videos that you spoke about, right? So I have questions. One, how was those videos getting taken? Which has to be from modern day technology, a cell phone, not authorized to be in a detention facility, right? So somehow or way they're getting in there. The other thing is, how are they getting out? Who's publishing them? What investigations are being done to track that down and hold people accountable? Because you're seeing those videos. I'll give you an example. The sheriff's office just recently posted something on social media, right? Great for them, good for them. They're posting a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the particular post I'm talking about is that they posted an arrest about an individual at UAPB's homecoming event set on top of a sheriff's office car with his middle finger in the air, right? That was disrespectful to a law enforcement officer, and it was showing the lawlessness that they feel like they can get away with. That if a person is comfortable enough to go up to a police officer's car, sit on it, and throw up the middle finger, right? I get it. However, under Arkansas law, that would be considered, at best, disorderly conduct, what have you. They made a public post about how they arrested this guy, right? And it became almost viral at their responses to it.
I don't think it was almost viral. It went viral.
So I mentioned that particular post because where are the posts, or where is the transparency about investigations about assaults that are happening in your jail? Where's the investigation and the public transparency about what you're doing to find out how the cell phones are getting in the jail, holding people accountable for beating helpless people inside the jail? There, you can get on Facebook right now on certain people. I'm not going to promote anybody's Facebook page, but if you get on there and you just search it, I promise you will see it. And so I got a problem with that, but that falls in line with, so I told you earlier that is my belief, is what I've been told. The jail is closed, right? Because they're understaffed, overpopulated, right? Those are two reasons for it. But one of my points to be running on, so I talk about being tough on crime, right? Having an efficient jail that is open, right? If a law enforcement officer makes an arrest, my jail, if I'm the sheriff or when I'm the sheriff, will be duty obligated to assist that officer by accepting their prisoner that they felt they needed to make a lawful arrest on at the time, right?
Right.
The third thing is to collaborate and cooperate with all agencies within Jefferson County and the state, right? So you mentioned the jail. So if they're understaffed, if they're overpopulated, why are we not, possibly looking at contracting out different venues to house inmates at? Other jails that are already certified that might be undermanned as far as they can accept prisoners, they have open bed space. But why are we not contacting? So within Jefferson County, you have the Arkansas Department of Corrections is a huge employer, and I don't know the exact number, but I would say you probably would have access to couple hundred additional corrections officers that are trained and certified on running a detention facility that you could partner with to come in and do what we'll call a shakedown, right? A massive shakedown. Go through your jail and find that contraband, weapons, cell phones, hold people accountable, right, for what they're doing. Because you're right, they are running the jail, right, based off of video evidence that we've seen. That's what it looks
like to me.
I have friends that have been behind the door of the jail, right, and seen it, that they said it's like a tent community in there, right? They have tents up, that made out of sheets that you can't even see through the windows what's going on in there. So they're not protecting the vulnerable inmates right now. But there is a resource out there. I've never been contacted. I'm very much a proactive and I would say a damn good police officer, right? So I personally have never been asked, hey, will you come over here and help us shake down and get this jail right? So that is something within itself that I would do from day one, right? Tour the jail inside and out. As the sheriff, I would have the ability to do that because that's my building now, right? I'm responsible for what's going on there. Make an assessment with my team and collaborate with other agencies to say, I need help. I'm providing you help now because we talked about the lady at 16th and Cherry, right? My fictional character that currently deputies are told stay out of the city, don't fish in their pond, all the things that I talked about, right? So now my deputies are helping you in your community, in your municipalities. So now I'm tapping you on the shoulder and saying, I need some help, right? We're coming back full force, 100, 200 people. We're going in. We're shaking it down. We're getting rid of those cell phones. We're getting rid of those weapons, and we're going to get rid of the tent cities that are built in there and make it be a safe jail for our most vulnerable inmates to allow justice to do what's supposed to happen. Because otherwise you're opening yourself up to lawsuits that's going to hurt the county. You're opening yourself up to people getting killed, hurt, having to go to the hospital, right? Because you can't protect them. It's jail. And I know a lot of people think, oh, they're criminals. We still are constitutionally obligated to protect those people.
And it's the right thing to do.
Yes,
man.
yes.
I mean, that's somebody's son, somebody's dad. So, I mean, somebody's brother. Man, and I'm going to take this a step further and I'm going to press this. We've had this conversation and I'm just going to put it out there, man. Those cell phones are coming from somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. And I appreciate that you got these deputies, you know, that are out here that are so dedicated that they work without a paycheck. But those cell phones, those guys, are they bringing them in? Because you can go in there and you can shake them down and you can take them out. But if they get reintroduced back into the building, they're getting in. Is that somebody's, wife bringing it into them? I mean, I would. Let's be real, Chris. The deputies are bringing in the cell phones, man.
I would tell you that my experience
gotta be.
Yeah, I agree with you because, and I'll tell you why. My experience with the jail. I'm open about who I am at any point, at any time. You can ask me any question. And sometimes I tell people, be careful the question you ask because I'm going to tell you the answer, right? So if you don't want to know, don't ask me.
I know you're not avoiding it, but I mean, I want to cut to the chase, man. We got to fix the problem.
I'll give it to you. So I was going to tell you that roughly 10 years ago, right, I had a family member that was housed at the Dub Brazel Detention Center. And I used to go there 2 or 3 weekends a month, 2 or 3 Sundays a month to visit him. Unless they've changed, I'm only speaking from my experience, right? So unless they've changed, there is no in-person visits. It's video visits. I pick up a phone, I'm looking at a screen, and I see my family member.
So their wife ain't bringing it in.
So their wife ain't bringing it, right? So now that excludes them. So how's it getting in?
Who has access?
Employees. Some shape, form, or fashion. Deputies, civilians.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to copy a program that I learned from my time at the Department of Corrections, right? It's a problem. So you're not coming into my detention facility without crossing through metal detectors, cell phone detectors, shakedowns. It's not that we don't trust you, but guess what? I am constitutionally obligated to protect every person back there.
Man, there's somebody there that you can't trust. Somebody there is wearing a badge. And I'm not saying by any means that this is an organized effort from the sheriff down or anything, nothing administrative. Maybe, I don't know what it is. I'd like to not believe that, right. But
reality is reality.
Well, somebody's bringing it in, man. I mean, and that person wears a badge, and that person has sworn to the community that they're going to uphold, their expectations as far as integrity and things like that. And that's the only way that could be happening, and it could be stopped.
I 100% agree, but you have to put forth the effort to stop it, right? So it has to be, if you enter the detention facility, it doesn't matter if you're the sheriff, right? That's the top guy, right?
Yeah.
Down to the newest civilian hire that might be an administrative assistant to somebody in the jail, right? They must go through a process to enter that facility, whether that's hands-on shakedowns, pat-downs, searching of bags, what have you. Limit access and availability for somebody to do it. Because let's face it, my time at the Department of Corrections, Arkansas Department of Corrections, I visited every prison there is in the entire state of Arkansas at some point. They have a problem as well. Not to the point that we've seen recently that's been brought to light through videos that have been released on social media at the Dub Brazel Detention Center.
Yeah, and let me be clear that I'm glad that they got in, because you wouldn't know that's happening if they hadn't gotten in. But the problem with that is, if that's getting in, what else is getting in?
Exactly. I agree. 100% agree with you. So
I know we've talked about these things, but it just blows my mind, man, that level of corruption is occurring with somebody, if not multiple people. And I would think it would have to be, honestly. I don't think one man can pull that off.
So I would like to tell you that as a leader of an agency, as a leader of just people I'm around, people like to say I'm just a natural leader. I show up in a room and people will gravitate towards me. Right?
I've seen it.
So I personally, the Air Force taught me this, and it's their core values, right? It's integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. Those are 3 simple rules that I believe you can apply towards life. And if you work for me at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, you will know them, you will live them, and you will work them. If you don't, you won't work there. And it starts out, like I said, integrity first, right? So if I can't trust you to come in and work the jail, or come in and be out on the street, or if there's a question about that, we will investigate that and either substantiate the reasons why we are not trusting of you, or we will exonerate you and say, okay, now you have that authority. That will happen with every employee we have, from jail to DTF, investigations, patrol, transport, to the administrative assistant that is helping someone that doesn't have authority to arrest somebody. If you're working at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, you will live those core values, because that's what the citizens deserve.
Man, that's so important. They do deserve it. And I'm going to tell you something else. I believe that that's a huge reason that law enforcement has such a problem with hiring right now, because there are people that believe in what they're doing. They want to make their community better, and that they would step in there and do that. But when they see that that's not what that is, they don't want to be a part of what's really going on. And I don't blame them, because I don't either.
I received a phone call probably a week after I announced my candidacy for Jefferson County Sheriff 2026. I won't say the guy's name, but it was a male. He called me. We had met once, twice, past couple of years, just in passing. Weren't friends. I didn't even have his phone number. He had mine because I had published it with my literature that I was running for sheriff. And he called me and he says, Chris, I don't know if you remember me or not, but we've met a couple of times, and he refreshed my memory where we met. And I was like, hey, man, how's it going? He said, I just want you to know, 1, you got my vote. 2, never have I ever considered being a law enforcement officer. You win this election, have me a uniform ready. The point of bringing that up is because people know I'm a no BS kind of guy, but they know I stand for what's right, and they're willing to go through doors and walls for me to accomplish the mission that is needed. And I believe if the citizens of Jefferson County elect me, we can eradicate internal problems as well as external problems. Because when I talk about being tough on crime, that's not just citizens of Jefferson County. That's employees too, right? If you've got somebody out there that's violating the law, it's putting us in a bad situation, putting a criminal in a situation. When I say criminal, somebody who's locked up in our care and custody and control, putting them in a situation that they could be hurt. That's a problem, right?
I think a lot of law enforcement leaders have a hard time doing that.
When you stand up for what's right, it's not hard. If you stand up for what you believe in, it's not hard. People ask me sometimes, how do you say what you say, and why do you stand on it? And I say, it's right. I believe it's right. I know it's right. And it's not that I'm infallible and I don't make errors or make mistakes, but when I do, I recognize them, correct them, and move on, right? So I don't think it's hard at all. Doing the right things for the right reasons is not hard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Once it becomes habit, it just is who you are. It becomes a part of who you are.
It is.
Yeah, and I know that's who you are.
Right.
Man, what a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on here. It's a lot to dissect. But I mean, Chris, do you have anything else you'd like to get out?
What I'd like to say is that by me running for sheriff, A couple of things I want citizens to know. First and foremost, I'm not a politician. I'm not just going to say something to say it. I'm not sugarcoating anything, and I'm not asking for your vote and buying you dinner or any of that stuff to get a vote. That's not what I'm doing, because I do not believe that the sheriff position within itself should be political. It is what it is, and the current system is in the state of Arkansas is set up the way it's set up. I'm not changing that.
You mean Democrat or Republican?
Yes, Democrat or Republican.
You're running as an independent?
Yes, I'm running as an independent candidate because I believe that the sheriff's office should be a nonpartisan race.
Right.
So what I'm telling you is that I'm running for the right reasons to affect change that will help Jefferson County get back to what it used to be. I am not here at anything I've said during this interview. It is not about a specific person. It's about a specific problem, right?
Sure.
And if I'm not blaming one person, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not going to get into a mudslinging contest about this, that, or the other. What I will say is that when I'm elected sheriff, if the problems don't fix what I'm trying to implement, if they're not fixed, I will bear that weight because I am the department head. I'm the elected official, right? So our current sheriff, nothing personal against him. He's the leader of that department. So people getting assaulted or battered in the jail, not being tough on crime, not working within communities to help them curtail their crime levels because it happens to be not unincorporated areas of Jefferson County, that falls on that elected official, not him as a person, but the position.
It's fair. I mean, I like the guy. I don't think it's his fault,
right?
But I know it's his responsibility at the end of the day.
I love the way you just said that, Chris.
That's what it is.
Yeah, he catches some blame that he could control.
Well, you asked for it.
You did. You stepped up to the plate about 8 years ago and said, I want to be sheriff of Jefferson County. They've given you 2 terms now, 2 4-year terms. He's recently decided he wants to run for a 3rd term, and that's his right to do. But what I'm going to tell the citizens is we've had the current sheriff for going on 8 years. If you're not happy with the sheriff's office, you need to vote Lowry4Sheriff. Plain, point blank, no sugarcoating. It is what it is. But that's the only way we're going to change Jefferson County is have different leadership and different roles.
Tell people how they can reach you.
So,
your website, your phone number.
Absolutely.
I know you're talking about starting some town halls, both live and online.
So
check out that camera right there. Looking at that camera and tell them.
Right there.
Yep.
So I'm Chris Lowry, running for Jefferson County Sheriff. You can reach me several different ways. My Facebook page is Chris Lowry for Jefferson County Sheriff. You can find me on there. My website is Lowry4Sheriff.com. My phone number is 870-556-0330. And I ask anybody and everybody to reach out to me through any platform they want 24 hours a day. I will never refuse a phone call from you. Look forward to me starting. I just recently decided to start doing a live stream. I'm going to try to do once a week where I can field your phone calls or field your questions through social media platforms, and look forward to us doing some town hall meetings and some meet and greets. We have one coming up November the 10th, 2025 at Heston Stadium in Pine Bluff from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Come get you a ticket to that. Come out and meet me. If you can't buy a ticket, can't afford a ticket, that's fine. Come on out. I got you covered. So I just want to get out and meet the people. So.
Yeah. Well, good, man. I always enjoy talking to you. I always get fired up because I'm excited about, the potential for what kind of change you can bring. And I'm not from Jefferson County, but I'm Little Rock all my life. And it's always been a place, and really for the last, 15, 20 years, maybe, where, it's Crime Bluff, like
Yes.
I said. And the idea, you make me believe that you can do something down there.
Well, one of the things I think if you would ask anybody who knows me, they would say, if Chris Lowry is passionate about it, it's going to happen. And I am passionate about this because no one else has the experience, the knowledge, the aptitude, and the passion to do what I think needs to be done. Everybody else might have been born there, raised there, lived there, what have you. Who has the experience, the leadership, and the drive that purposely and intentionally moved back to their home community 15 years ago? I could have lived anywhere in this world. I've lived in Germany, Florida, North Dakota, Northwest Arkansas, Arizona. I've been all over this world, right? As Johnny Cash says, I've been everywhere, man. But I chose to come back. And when I did, and I see what goes on, it just spoke to me. Now is the time. If not now, then when? And if not me, then who?
Yeah, you did all that moving in the Air Force. That's something that failed to discuss
Right.
Up until now. So, what do you do in the Air Force, by the way?
So I initially joined the Air Force in 1992. That's what took me away from Jefferson County. I joined as a military policeman. It's called Security Forces for those who know the Air Force, but for anybody else who don't, it's military police. I did that, and after my tour of being active duty for about 12 years, I transferred over to the Air National Guard. I'm still in the Air National Guard, and I am currently what they call a first sergeant for the operations group. So I'm over health, morale, welfare, and discipline within the 189th operations group.
Okay. How many people in that unit?
180 to 190.
You're the first sergeant for 180 to 190 people?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I have experience leading people and setting the example and holding accountability within that number of people, which falls in line exactly with what the Jefferson County
Is that
Sheriff's
the kind of, no, I really don't know what kind of numbers
I think Jefferson County's running around 100, 110 employees.
Okay. Okay. Man. Well, that does sound like it lines up with what you're doing over there.
Yes, sir.
Well, man, again, I always enjoy it because I get fired up at the possibility of change. You're motivating with that stuff, and I really appreciate that. Wish you the best of luck, and anything I can do to help, I'm going to continue to do.
Thank you guys so much for having me. For sure, I'm enjoying getting the message.
Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you coming on with us, taking a minute and come up here to Little Rock and visit with us. I know it's a drive, but
yes, sir.
Yeah, glad you made it out. Business and politics inside. This is our podcast. This is Chris Lowry, Sheriff, Jefferson County. You said that 2 times when you were talking, and it just came out. Hey, this person's going to say to me, Sheriff Lowry? That's the first time I've ever heard it put like that. It sounded like it went together. So, good luck.
Thank you.
Take care.